Lewis Hamilton wins the
Sir Lewis
British.
Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix. Wow.
Yep. It's
Wow.
up there. There's no question. And you could tell what it meant to him and the family. And I hadn't really kind of gauged in the last ever for Mercedes and that combination that has been really the reason why he's a 9-time winner. Let's remember, he had the best car for a long time. That's how you get those numbers.
9th in most victories at a single circuit by any driver in Formula One history.
Including Schumacher.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. And he did it impressively.
Yeah. Well, this is Jon Massengale. That was Jonathan Green, and Bob Varsha is with us. Man, Bob, this did not disappoint, right?
That was exhausting. It's kind of race afterwards. You want to light a cigarette or something. It was so cool. And pure Formula One, changing conditions, changing strategies, great efforts by the drivers, surprising results, not only with the guys up front, but the guys who weren't competitive, who went back, Ferrari and Charles Leclerc. I mean, my God, could they have done anything else wrong during that whole thing? Perez unable to recover for Red Bull. Poor George Russell starts from pole and then the car lets him down. I mean, there's lots of tragedies to go with the successes and the victories, but all credit to Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton. 6 different winners now in 12 races.
Wow.
Who says Formula One's not competitive?
Yeah, well, let me run down the order here, because I wanted to look for myself. Lewis Hamilton, of course, wins. Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, and then Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz, Hulkenberg. Wait, this is not the final. I'm sorry, boys and girls. I'm going. Max Verstappen is not third.
Max was second.
Yes.
Norris third.
Sorry, my timing screen just refreshed. We'll come back to that here in a minute. But wow, I mean, 104th race win for Lewis Hamilton. 17 years between his first win and today.
That's pretty impressive.
That's a stunning number, really. 344th Grand Prix. And he came on super emotional, still crying, honestly. He said it. And he said, oh, man, I've been waiting for this. Came on the radio. And the crowd
I got the
was
results
chanting.
up if you want them.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I got them.
You got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you got Hamilton first, Verstappen second, closing fast, but ran out of race. Norris third, bad tire choice, going to the softs rather than the mediums. Oscar Piastri, his fellow McLaren driver. So, no weeping for McLaren. They picked up a huge haul of points today. Carlos Sainz waving the flag for a Ferrari team that must be wondering, wait a minute, we decided to get rid of Carlos. Oh, yeah, the guy who won in Britain today, he's replaced. All right, that'll be weird. Nico Hulkenberg, ta-da, with Haas. Started 6th, finished 6th. Good for him. And he was a part of a battle with those front runners all the way through. Lance Stroll finishes 7th, just ahead of his teammate, Fernando Alonso. So that's not a bad weekend for Aston Martin. Alex Albon, who had a wicked sideways moment at the first turn of the first lap, finishes 9th for Williams. Yuki Tsunoda, RB, is 10th, followed by Logan Sargent in the 11th. Is that his of the year? I'm thinking it is.
I think so.
Kevin Magnussen, a solid 12th, no points, but a decent drive for K-Mag. Danny Ricciardo, who had the engine change this morning, finishes 13th for RB. Charles Leclerc, as I mentioned, just they just couldn't get out of their own way on his side of the garage. Finishes 14th. Valtteri Bottas 15th for Sauber. Esteban Ocon for Alpine 16th. Perez for Red Bull 17th. Guanyu 18th. George Russell, a non-finishing 19th. And Pierre Gasly, also DNF'd in 20th. He only went a couple of laps into the race before the transmission let him down, which is basically the only part of the drive line they did not change coming into the weekend.
Wow, and it's so unusual to hear a mechanical failure these days. I mean,
it's
rare.
True.
And we had 2. We had George Russell as well.
Yeah, his apparently was some kind of water system, and I don't know if that's code for anything, but maybe a leak, maybe losing pressure.
There is an irony that the whole of 300,000 people have found their water systems, as has Hamilton,
right.
But not for the man of the moment.
Water on the outside, not water on the inside.
That's true.
Yeah.
I feel for Russell.
But,
I do. I really do.
I really do too.
Last win for Lewis Hamilton was December of 2001 at Saudi Arabia, 946
But
days.
if you think about it, that was the beginning of the slide. 2022 was not a good season. 2023 was not a good season. And they started in Bahrain in 24 going, we're going to have another bad season.
Yeah. And so
we're
the downforce era started, and Mercedes is finally getting it right after 1,000 days.
But that's what that's the 30,000 meter rule. We should always look back like that and talk about why, instead of complaining about the dominance, talk about why the dominance happens. And the fact is that Red Bull got it right and have been getting it right. And now finally at the end of this era, the other teams have caught up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what happens. We talked about it in our pre-race show. In any other series, there's basically no change except the paint job. NASCAR, IndyCar, whatever you want. Formula One, these teams come with, in sometimes radically different cars from race to race. So you just never quite know what the balance of power is going to be. And, don't cite Red Bull's long run or Mercedes' long run before that or Ferrari's long run before that. It's everybody is trying all the time to get better, and they have a lot of leeway technically to do that. And so, occasionally you're going to get a race like we got today, where Mother Nature steps in. Judgments have to be made in an instant. What tire are you on? What's it going to cost you in terms of lap time and track position? And all those things that go into a great race. And then, a guy racing with all of his incredible skills and his experience and his heart. I was watching the race with my wife, and I kept saying, Lewis is going to use everything he's ever learned in a Formula One car right now to make sure he wins this race. And Verstappen's not going to catch him. I don't care what the announcers say. And luckily, that's what happened.
Luckily, you were right.
And I'll make a prediction now. Watch the next dominance come from Aston Martin over the next 5 years.
That's probably a pretty good bet, considering the amounts of money being spent.
Yeah.
But
and the new CEO.
And speaking of this periods of dominance, I wonder if the way that F1, the rules are now, these periods of dominance are not going to last as long.
That's a good point.
Look, I'm seeing it right now, but with Verstappen not dominant again this year as dominant, but they may just last less time rather than lasting 6, 7 years, 8 years like they did.
And then it'll be Andretti after
that. We're going into a transition year. So in 2025, you're looking ahead at the radical new rules for 2026. So what do you do? How many of your resources do you dedicate to your 2025 car? And this is where I think Carlos Sainz has come a cropper with Audi, because Andreas Seidel, who's running that operation as they transition to Audi in 2026, has been saying, I don't want a driver who wants 1 or 2 years and then the option of getting out of his contract. We want drivers who are going to be with us as we make this transition. I think Sainz wants something less, and that's why they haven't been able to come to terms. But, be that as it may, transition year this year, totally new cars in 2026. Yeah, I think there's plenty of room for shakeup in Formula One. It's going to be a really exciting period coming up.
All right, well, let's jump out to Chris Medland, because we got to get our roving Brit, who's at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. He's trusting the Wi-Fi right now, so let's see how it's going. Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm good. The sun's out. It's all nice again. I mean, we've got 2 Brits on the podium. The crowd are loving it. Lewis Hamilton, a winner. I mean, that was almost the perfect script, I think, for a lot of people here. But yes, I'm trusting the Pirelli Wi-Fi right now, because as all the guests have filed back into the paddock, it does mean that the signal disappeared just as I was joining you guys. But I did bump into a very happy team owner as I was walking down here. Any guesses who that might be?
Io Katsumo.
Team owner, he said.
Team owner.
Zach Brown?
Yes, Toto Wolff.
No, but he does own part of the team. I will chase him later. Wasn't Toto?
Gene Haas?
Oh, a team owner. Owner. Sorry,
team owner. I think someone just said it, didn't they?
Gene Haas?
Gene Haas.
Awesome.
So that's my big hint to Casey, that it should be in his inbox. But yeah, I managed to grab Gene as we walked down towards the Haas hospitality. And if we've got time, here's a very happy Gene Haas. I've got Gene Haas with me, finally basking in some sunshine here in the UK. It's been a bit cold recently, but back-to-back sixth places for the team. How are you feeling with those results, Gene?
It's good. It's a good feeling. I think we've, kind of paced ourselves. Right tire selections, right pit calls, everything else. So that, it's all important. We didn't make any mistakes.
It's been really impressive to see the way the team's responded this year, stepped up from last year. How pleased have you been to see the progress that's been made?
Well, we did a lot of changes, so and the changes are working, so that's good. That's all good.
Those changes must have been tough to make as well. Obviously, Gunther Steiner leaving, Ao Komatsu coming in. You must have thought long and hard about it. How proud are you, I guess, that work is now paying off?
Well, we had 4 years of almost being dead last, so that was enough to motivate me.
Nico Hülkenberg with the sixth place today. How sad are you to see him go at the end of the season? Because he's done a great job for you guys, hasn't he?
Yeah, he gets every bit out of the car. We know that's about as fast as the car can go when he drives it. Things change. You just get used to it in racing.
And excited to see Ollie Behrman coming in next year?
Yeah. So far he looks very impressive. But being a rookie, there's always those rookie mistakes you make.
Yeah, there will be. It'll be a big learning curve for him. But what about for the team moving forward? As you said, some great results recently, pacing yourselves, consolidating. What's next for Haas? How do you grow from here?
Well, I think we got to this step in the mountain. We need to stay here for a while, not go back down the mountain. So that's what we need to do. And we have good pace. Our car's not as fast as we could be or should be, but it's as fast as we can be right now to be mid-pack. So if we can just stay there, we'll be in good shape. We'll have some more upgrades coming, during the year. The upgrades, I think, have been a lot more successful than previous years. So hopefully that'll keep us ahead of everybody else, at least who are racing.
Well, enjoy it and well done today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and the footnote of that is look at the Constructors. 4 points now between RB and Haas for sixth place in the Constructors.
Wow.
And that is worth chasing.
Yeah.
If they could finish behind Aston Martin in sixth place in the Constructors after finishing dead last, like he said, for the last few years. And what a great interview with Gene Haas. I haven't heard him that animated. Yeah. I agree with him. It's time for an energy bar and a drink to sit at the halfway point of the mountain and not go down again. And
I haven't heard an interview with Gene Haas from anyone, Chris. That's a great get with anyone in a long time. I don't remember the last one.
Hey, it's a great bonus to have a mic flag that has American brands on it. I think he sees that and goes, "Okay, you know what you're going to talk about."
Right.
He doesn't trust the people he's speaking to. He might not speak. So, and I've interviewed him a few times over the years. So, hopefully, I'm not an unfamiliar face. But yeah, he was. I know it doesn't. He's always quite short with his answers, but he had a smile on his face, which isn't always the case. He's a very serious operator, as Gene Haas.
I can't help but detect some digs at Gunther in that interview.
Definitely. He has been proven.
Yeah, it was unhappy. Is Gunther still suing him for back pay or whatever it was?
I haven't heard anything on that.
Hey,
I think there's lawsuits going both ways. I think, but like on both sides, it'll be interesting to see. But I will admit, I wish I could have sat down with him for 10 minutes there with some of those answers just to probe further. But maybe we'll see if we can get that at some stage in the future. If he'll do a proper big sit down with us and kind of, I guess, pat himself on the back for the changes he's made. Because as we say, as much as we like Gunther, you can't argue with what Haas are doing right now.
No, you cannot.
No question. And it's interesting. Stewart Haas Racing has closed up shop. Tony Stewart's going elsewhere, but Gene Haas is going to stay in NASCAR with a team reduced in size. I'd love to hear him talk at some length about the difference between running a team in NASCAR and running a team in Formula One. And he's a very technically oriented guy. Obviously, he's made his fortune with his CNC machines, computer-controlled milling machines, carve intricate pieces out of billet aluminum and whatnot. I wonder what, from a technical perspective, he thinks of the jump to Formula One.
Yeah, good question. Well, look, we have to just celebrate what we saw today, because not only did we see a record set with Lewis Hamilton's 9th win, but just fantastic racing all across. In fact, it was just the stereotypical perfect British Grand Prix, wasn't it? We had strategy like crazy. We had the rain coming and going, the sun coming and going, and we had some mechanical failures. We had a little bit of everything in this race, guys.
And some darn good racing.
Strategy.
Yeah, not to mention some fantastic wheel-to-wheel passing. And, I have to go back to when Max was being passed by Lando and by Oscar Piastri, and they went on board with Max in a replay to show the steering wheel that did not move as he was being passed.
Yep. That's why Dale Earnhardt Sr. supposedly would not allow an onboard camera in his NASCAR machine because he didn't want anybody seeing what he was doing with the steering wheel. There's another record that Lewis set today, and we talked about it earlier in the pre-race show. He becomes the first driver with 300 or more Grand Prix starts to win a race after reaching that point. And there's only, I think it's 23 drivers in the history of Formula One who have reached, or are ready to reach that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's got another record. I'm going to look that up.
Well, and Chris, I can't imagine the sound. Oh, Chris just left us. We'll get Chris back and we'll get it. But I just wanted to hear his take on the crowd when Lewis Hamilton crossed that line.
Well,
we heard it on
the
TV.
roar when he took the lead was insane.
Yeah, but I wanted to hear his take on the crowd, but we'll get him back on that. But, oh, Jonathan, what else? This has got to be your favorite race of the year, one of them for sure.
Yeah,
right?
I not just because it was a Hamilton win, but because of all that changing of the guard, and just to watch finally Verstappen not struggle, but the last 2 weeks have been a struggle for Red Bull to not dominate. And McLaren took it to him last week. This time Mercedes are up there, and like I said, I don't think it's going to be long before Aston Martin are up there too. And we genuinely have 4, now 5 with Ferrari, who had a bad day today. But teams that can all fight for a top 6, and that's huge for Formula One. That's a long time since I've said that.
Yeah.
Are you assuming Adrian Newey is going to Aston? Is that why you're so bullish?
Yeah. Well, they've also had a new CEO this week as well.
Right.
There's a lot of things going on at Aston Martin, and I think it is. Not money's limitless, but he is serious about doing this.
All right, guys. Well, let's take a quick.
Let's
take a quick break, and when we come back, I hear Chris back with us. We are going to get Chris's take on the crowd, the roar after Lewis Hamilton wins the race. You listen to Speed City F1. Back after these messages. So we just have the one live read about the Lewis Le Mans in the post race, right?
Been amazing.
All right, let's see what's happening on YouTube. All right.
You guys got me again?
Yeah.
We got you.
Yep.
Cool. Right, I've jumped off Wi-Fi. I'm hoping it'll hold on now.
All right, let me go back to the post show. Don't have it up.
Although I might disappear again to see if I can get Oscar, so I might have to jump off.
All right, we got everybody on YouTube. We got Joe Vorshabay, Mike Bowles, David Lawrence, TW, The Wood Source, Andy P, Johnny Spa. I haven't seen you in a while, Johnny. Welcome back. Irv McDaniel, don't recognize that name. Lots of folks on, and Kevin Kelly.
By the way, shout out to Boy from New York. He's not on this morning, but he was watching the Trans Am last week.
Oh, okay.
That was good too. Good stuff.
David Lawrence, 7 winners, or we had 6 winners? I think we had 6 winners, but yeah, David, that is 6, right? Oh, Chris jumped off, yeah. Andy P is literally reversed 2012 at this point. 2021, 2012, yeah. Let's see who else has got some stuff here. Heartbreak for George. McLaren needed the rain to last a little longer, but nice heads up from them to anticipate the weather. Yep, good point, David. Who got fastest lap? I forgot. Did anybody see that?
Verstappen, I think.
I think. I thought last time I checked, it was Piastri.
Okay.
Ask our staff, Jonathan.
I'll ask the staff.
Our crack research department.
Yeah.
Yeah, this Joe Vorshabay, yet another winner in 2024. But that would be the huge
6.
headline. But at 6. But really, I think the headline is just that it's Lewis Hamilton at home and the 9th win. I mean, it's just a fantastic year so far. All right, coming back.
Hi, this is Gene Haas, and this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Nice grab, Casey. Getting Gene Haas.
Carlos Sainz. I asked the Infos web, and Kevin Kelly came good.
Okay.
As did Joe from Oyster Bay.
Okay, good.
Carlos
Sainz, fastest lap. All right. Well, there
and
you go.
Bob, of course. He did say that.
And I don't think anybody has to guess on driver of the day. And it was only 36%. I was like, there's.
Well, I mean, think about it. It could have been Russell's day. It could have been Lando's day.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
They split the vote.
Wait a minute. Lewis Hamilton just won at home for his 9th most wins at any circuit all time, and we're still only 36%.
Yeah, but he turned his teammate's water system on.
Well, the sniper. And I need to correct something I said earlier about starts. 22 drivers started 200 Grand Prix in their career. 6 have started 300 or more. And as I said, Lewis is the first one to win a race after reaching 300. And boy, it's hard to believe. In 3 races, which I think is the Dutch Grand Prix, Max Verstappen will reach 200 Grand Prix starts. And that's phenomenal to me. I mean, hey.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
Hey, let's look at the points again real quick. We'll just look at the drivers' points today. So Lewis Hamilton, 25 for the win. That's fantastic. Obviously, Verstappen, 18, Norris, 15. I'm thinking about the
just 1 point now between George and Lewis, and they're catching Sergio quick.
Well, and also just now 7 points between McLaren and Ferrari in constructor standings. There's still a big leap up from 302 for Ferrari and 373 for Red Bull, 71 points. But that gap has just been slowly creeping tighter because today Ferrari didn't tighten it to Red Bull, but McLaren did. So, and I think that's the team you got to think about. In fact, Zach Brown said it earlier this week. He was talking about, and he was talking about Checo's what he's talking about, how saying that Max doesn't have a second driver. McLaren's, building points in big chunks, but Red Bull is just having to rely just on Max and not Checo.
Yep, very true.
And that's going to be the nail in the coffin of Perez's career.
Unfortunately,
if Red Bull was nowhere in the championship, then Perez could have some more time to get it together. But they need his points so desperately now. Yeah, they've got a lead in the championship, but that assumes that Max is going to keep winning every race, and that's not happening, obviously. So, that's important.
Yeah, Checo since Monaco, nothing in Monaco, nothing in Canada, 4 points in Spain, 7 points.
He was 11th in Austria, I think.
Yep, 7 points in Austria, and then again nothing this week. So 3 of the last 5 races he has not scored points in that car.
Yeah.
And that is not going to get you there.
Dave Lawrence just said MV at 200 is more of a sign of greed and a big schedules more than anything else.
Yeah.
Well, you can make that point.
Yeah.
That's what I say about, the championship points is an irrelevant stat right now because they change the system so often. And you get 25 now as opposed to 6 back in the day. Yeah. So I can see that.
Yeah. Well,
so the numbers are going to change a lot because they race so often.
It goes back to what you were saying, Jonathan, in the pre-show about the ticket prices being so expensive, the T-shirts, the food, everything. But it's the popularity. It is supply and demand, right?
Oh yeah.
They're going to make hay while they can, and I mean, although it doesn't appear that the popularity is waning, it's leveled.
Oh, you want a capitalist model? It's right there in Formula One.
Money in Formula One. Money. That's hard to believe.
Well, and what's the reason? I mean, Formula One is extraordinarily profitable. So is it just pure greed? Are they trying to, squeeze more foie gras out of the golden goose, as it were? Or do they have more expenses to cover? I mean, that it's a mistake that I think NASCAR made a long time ago, charging so much for the racing that, the blue collar fan base that NASCAR did so much with is turned off. They can't afford for a family of 4 to go to a race weekend.
Well, and it's the same thing that any business, you peak and then you raise your prices or whatever. But if it wanes, you got to lower your prices to match it. You can't just keep the prices up there. You're going to lose.
Yeah.
Lose fans and lose attendance. Yep, exactly.
Okay, here's my idea. We ought to institute a new feature called conspiracy theory of the week. Come up with your wildest conspiracy theory, and here's mine for this weekend.
I love it.
Okay, Bob, go ahead.
Well, it's not a herald trumpet, but I'll take it. I think there was no problem with Russell's car, that Mercedes just brought him in and retired the car because they used team orders to put Lewis in front, and they didn't want to look like that's what they did. So they made it look like Russell's car failed him. And so they couldn't be chided for putting Lewis ahead of Russell.
So mechanic walked over and punctured a hole in the cooling system when he got there. So he would.
I love your theory, but I also think that the gorgeous George would have had words to say over the radio
Right.
and would have worked that out pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, you saw him go stomping off to his dressing room.
And we didn't hear his team radio. We didn't.
That's a good point. Yeah, I liked it. I like this new idea though.
Well, Will Buxton said a conspiracy theory on during practice the other day when he was talking about Checo being replaced by Daniel Ricciardo. So, I mean, that's not quite as crazy a conspiracy theory, but if we're going there, Jonathan, any conspiracy theories yourself?
Yes, the rain. We can control it in the UK.
Giant sprinklers.
It's a government thing. It is actually just to keep the population down, and those that escape to places like Texas never go back.
You made it. You made it out.
Yeah, well, those that know, I'm on the in.
You keep couples indoors with rain, and I think your population's going to grow, not shrink.
Yeah, but is that a good thing?
I don't know. It was okay last time. I enjoyed it, but
All right, let's look at the finishing today because I want to see where Charles Leclerc ended up after chasing the almighty tire swap. Right, he was one of the very first to enter intermediates, and it did not pay off for him. And
yes.
I have to say, it was almost comical at the start of the race. The rain was going to be a factor. It was right from the get-go. When we walked in this room, the first question we asked Chris, what's going on?
Yeah.
It affected yesterday. But then it was, rain's coming in 16 minutes. Yeah, what rain?
Yeah.
Is it drizzle? Is it put the covers over Wimbledon?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it heavy rain? Well, there's going to be some rain, and then there's going to be heavier rain.
Yeah. Leclerc finished 14th, by the way, because he was down in 18th, 17th or 18th at one point. But I love the way the teams handled it today because we saw them staying on this soft for as long as they could.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, some people were coming on. Rain's coming. We need to switch. We need to switch. And then some of the drivers were saying, no, it's too soon. It's too soon. But I think the teams overall made pretty good choices here.
I think we'll look back, and I think that last stint from Lewis on the softs was where he had worked out that the first stint on the softs was able to go longer than perhaps they had predicted.
Yeah, because wasn't it McLaren coming on the radio saying they were the only ones of the top teams that had a fresh intermediate left? They had that choice where the other teams didn't.
Yeah.
Right. And you'll recall Montreal was a very similar situation with on and off rain. And a lot of hard lessons were learned. That was only 3-4 races ago, and Leclerc and Ferrari got it wrong there too. So no lesson learned there. But at least all the teams were mindful of what the tires can do when it starts to drip.
Jonathan, I think during the race you were calling this when Lando and Oscar didn't pit at the same time. They went ahead and pitted Lando, and then Oscar had to stay out. And Zach Brown admitted on the radio, on the commentary, that he said, we made a mistake. We should have double stacked.
Yeah. It's always a risk. Mercedes did it well. It's always a risk. But they should have done it, I think. Yeah, because that extra lap actually cost him, didn't it?
Yep. And let's see. Oscar down in fourth, Carlos Sainz fifth. Nico Hulkenberg, that's such a great – God, that's amazing. What's that, 8 points for them? So that's 12 last week, right? So that's 20 points, I think, in the last
like I said,
two races.
Yeah, they're now 4 off RB. It's really good.
Yeah, but I think, 20 points, that is more. Well, last week was more than last year. The previous year was 37, so still, that's a lot of points in 2 races for them.
Maybe they could loan him off Audi until they get up to speed.
Yeah, I'm sure a big check would have arranged that from Gene Haas.
Here's another stat to look at. Lewis has now won 104 races in 345 starts.
Yeah.
That's a win rate of every 3.3 races he's in, he wins. Yeah, he had the best car and a great team back in the day, but so did a lot of other great champions. But to have numbers that large, I mean, Jackie Stewart did 99 Grand Prix, won a bunch of races, 3 world championships, but to run almost 350 races and win every third race or so,
and then go
phenomenal,
and then go over about 50 races without a win. It's about how long? Because he went all of 22 and 23 and half of 24.
Yeah,
so roughly 50 races. No wonder he was crying. And besides being at home in the British Grand Prix and everything
well, he's
else.
an old man. He's going to be 40, so he was probably achy.
By the way, Andy P says I literally yelled double stack.
Andy P, we're going to have to get you the hotline to Zach, America's greatest McLaren fan, Andy P.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was as much when they pitted as what they did when they pitted, which was put some softs on. I think, yeah, I mean, double stack or wait a couple laps for pitting the second car. I have no particular opinion on, but you needed that medium tire at the end.
And speaking of pit stops, Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris, who were leading the race at the time, both pitted, but Lewis Hamilton had a 2.5 second pit stop, and Lando Norris had a 4.5, if I'm not mistaken. And that obviously changed the complexion of the front of the race right then. The Max was still coming up behind Lando, but that was a huge deal. And in fact, I think the fastest pit stop I saw was, of course, no surprise, is Red Bull, and that was for Checo at 2.0. I saw a 2.2 or 2.4 from Max, but consistently Red Bull has, always has the fastest.
Can I ask the obvious question, and I'll throw this open to anybody who wants to chime in? Why couldn't Carlos Checo make up some time? Why couldn't Checo, Sergio Perez, make up some time today? There's nothing wrong with the car. It went in the gravel yesterday. That was all. So, what
I don't know.
You know what I mean? It really sticks out to me. Like, hang on a minute,
because he went from
he's not doing the job.
Yeah, because he only moved up a couple of places. He finished 7th. Yeah. He couldn't move up at all. I was thinking he was 15th.
Yeah, I mean, should he be out there duking it out with the Saubers? No, I don't think so. And let me apologize to Andy P. Andy P said they should have double stacked when they went from slicks to inters, and I think he's right about that.
Yeah.
It was later on when they pitted for slicks again. And
Chris said he's out getting interviews, by the way, so Casey's going to watch for those, and we'll see what Chris gets for us. But Daniel Ricciardo is just going to keep an eye on him, and Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki finished 10th. Daniel finished 13th.
Yep. Not another good day for Danny.
I mean, we're saying this, but there was such a variables, right? With the rain and everything, we don't know. Maybe Chris will be able to. He has such great insights on Checo, why he didn't finish higher, and Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda. And Logan Sargent. By the way, I Bob, you said conspiracy theories. This one's not really a conspiracy theory because it's been well rumored. But Logan Sargent, I cut up those interviews we get every post qualifying, and I listened to Logan Sargent. And these last few qualifying sessions.
Are you on conspiracy again?
Yes, he has sounded much more upbeat. And could it be that he has an IndyCar contract in his back pocket, signed, sealed, and delivered?
That's a good question.
That's the rumor.
I tell you what, there's not a lot of room in Indy right now.
Well, that's true.
I mean, if Rossi's not got a seat, good luck.
Yeah, hasn't that been a story too? But all right, well, let's go ahead and get a quick break in, and when we come back, we'll get some more interviews from Chris. We'll continue to break down the fantastic British Grand Prix right after this. All right, let's see who's on YouTube. Anybody have any theories on the IndyCar contract for Logan Sargent? I don't know. I don't know what team. And speaking of IndyCar, how's Juncos doing? How's Dave O'Neill's team?
Fair to middling.
Well, I mean, this
Grosjean
weekend.
looked good.
Yeah, Grosjean. Okay.
But we'll see.
Race starts in a little over an hour.
But yeah, I mean, certainly consistently middle field.
Yeah. There's Chris back. We're in a break, Chris.
Perfect. I just got Oscar Piastri.
Oh, perfect.
Brilliant. Todd Dauber says, I think Checo has lost all his confidence.
Yeah, I was going to read that. That's a good one.
I completely agree, Todd. That is spot on.
I think that's really where I was going.
Get corner again.
Yeah, Chris, what's your take? Would you agree with me? And I'm being brutal Formula One here, but Checo should have done better today. There was nothing wrong with that car. It went in the gravel yesterday. That's all.
Yeah, they fixed what they needed to fix. They start from the pit lane because of Parc Fermé regs.
Yeah.
They changed. They'd broken those regs.
But a top 10 should have been achievable, shouldn't it? Not fighting with the
17.
Sauber. He was fighting with the Saubers and the Williams.
With the chaos. But you want to know who made those calls. So I can see Christian Horner here, although how long we got on the break?
About a minute left.
All right. No, I don't have, you go.
I'm not on a break.
Oh, well, we're not ready.
Okay. I'll jump off and pre-record this, right?
Okay. All right, go.
You just got an insight how it works.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's
tough.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I've done that job.
Yeah,
it's tough as hell.
yeah.
How long did you do that, Johnny?
Yeah.
A couple of years for ESPN.
Couple of seasons.
But I didn't do it live like that. It's
You
hard.
got to work together to get these interviews.
Yeah.
You got to work together,
But I do like
among
the
all the correspondence.
not
Coming
having
back.
a sound man and a cameraman helps.
Uh-huh.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Hey, you like what you saw today and you like to see British world champions? Well, come and join Jenson Button at COTA. That's right. And if that's not enough for you, how about the 7-time world champion Valentino Rossi? They're all part of the World Endurance Championship, which is coming for the Lone Star Le Mans. We got Ferrari, we got Ford, BMW, Aston Martin, Alpine, Lamborghini, you name it. By the way, talking of Lamborghini, we've also got Super Trofeo. That's all Lamborghinis and all Fords in the Ford Mustang Challenge. So 3 great races, but it's all culminates in the 6 hours of the Lone Star Le Mans. Labor Day weekend, bring your dad. We've already been giving some free tickets away for that. But right here in little old Austin, Texas, the world's greatest come from Le Mans all the way to your home.
Circuit of the Americas is going to be awesome. We're going racing in from the day into the night. That is going to be fun, Greeny.
Friday, Labor Day weekend, August 30th. It starts and it finishes on the Sunday, the 1st.
Yeah, come down and join us. All right, well, I hear Chris Medland's... Yeah, exactly. I hear Chris Medland's mic. If Casey's got him turned up, we'll hear from Chris.
Yep.
Go ahead, Chris.
I am here at war with my wife because it's us versus Sky Sports to get Christian Horner next. And he's currently talking to Ronan Keating, as you do. Yeah, here we go.
No quarter asked.
Who's her reporter?
It's tense. It will be Ted Kravitz, but he's not here yet. So
No
I'm gonna
problem.
get ahead of him. I'm
Stomp
sure
on him.
Sure of it. Yeah. But I've got to pick my time because, as I say, it's sometimes you can interrupt these conversations. But yeah, Ronan Keating and his family are talking to Christian Horner right now, and I just think I don't look quite as fun to talk to for him. So
Yeah, probably not.
I'm doing my usual filling at this stage, but I can tell you what I can see right now.
Yeah,
Aside from the fact it's the warmest it has been all weekend. So everyone's basking in the sunshine here, so no one's leaving anytime soon. But Anthony Hamilton has just been doing a load of interviews at the front of Mercedes. I think he's still doing some now. I mean, it was a really emotional win for Lewis, so I think that's been one that they're really enjoying. Now, I think I might be nearly up to speak to Mr. Horner, so I believe I am, yes, who's doing a quick photo. And then, Christian, I've beaten my wife to pole position here. So we're going to talk about how today's race went. And firstly, starting with Max, is second better than you expected halfway through that race? It looked like you just didn't have the pace today to fight Mercedes and McLaren.
At some points, it looked like we were going to struggle to keep fifth, and then others, we looked like we were a second ahead of the rest of the field. So, but I would think the top 5 can all say that. It was just weird the way that the form swung around between the different cars at different moments. So, but I think we got the calls right strategically today. We went on to the Inter at the right time. We went on to the hard tire at the right time, and it all worked out. Another lap or 2 at the end there, I think you'd have had him.
Yeah, but you'd have ruined a great storyline, wouldn't you, for the home crowd? Lewis Hamilton winning at Silverstone.
Do you know what? I got to congratulate Lewis. I mean, I know he's it's been a while since he's won a race, but a big one for him to win today, and a really impressive win from him. So congrats to him, and nice to see how much it meant to him.
And also nice to see no dramas in terms of wheel-to-wheel racing. And what was a slippery track as well. We had lots of overtaking and fights, and everyone kept it very clean.
I thought it was some great racing out there today. I mean, the form just kept moving around. 1 minute it was a Mercedes race, then it was a McLaren race. and then suddenly Max started coming back into it, and the last 15, 20 laps was all about Max. So yeah, the form moved around dramatically from lap to lap.
I hate to say it, but the one bit of form that didn't seem to pick up was Checo's form. I mean, did the team get calls wrong there with him in the Inter in the start of the race, or was that partly driver-based too?
Well, look, we took a risk, and we chucked a set of Inters on because he's running, some way out the points, and you look like a hero if it comes right. And unfortunately, Charles tried the same, and the rain didn't quite arrive. It took another 10 minutes to get there, but so that put him on the back foot. But it's been a write-off of a weekend for Checo, so a lot of points to take out of it.
Would you say the next 2 races are crucial to see him turn his form around?
Well, all the races are crucial because the constructors. Yes, we've extended on Ferrari, but McLaren have closed the gap by 7 points today, and we can't just rely on one car. So we desperately need Checo to start scoring good points again.
How do you go about getting that?
Just working with him. I mean, we know what he's capable of. That's a frustrating element, but we'll sit down after this race and look at what we need to do for the last 2 races before the summer break.
And rest of the season going to be like this, like you say, fluctuating form, different teams in the fight?
Yeah, look, I mean, the last 5-6 races have really moved around a lot. So, but we're consistently there. We're first, we're second, we're always around the front end. So we just got to keep getting performance on the car, and as the conditions change from track to track, you'll see different cars come into play.
It's great for us. I'm sure it's giving you a headache, but we're enjoying it.
Look, that was an entertaining race, and hopefully the crowd enjoyed it. So, and again, congrats to Lewis. I think he deserved that one.
Great stuff, Christian. Thank you for your time.
Go, Johnny Green.
I'm just going to say, I hope our fans appreciate how good a reporter we have in the field. He just nailed that interview.
You ask every question,
You
Chris.
just answered every question I put up about Checo. And the one that's obviously the most realistic is that he was out of the points, so they gambled, and they gave him an intermediate.
Sure.
But more importantly, his words about we will sit down, we will look ahead to the next few races, and what do you do about it, which was the greatest question. And he basically said we work with him without giving too much away. But that thread is getting thin.
Yeah, no question. It was interesting, too, during the race when they did put Checo on the Inters. And it shows us how important that second car is, no matter where it is in the field. Since he wasn't in the points, as you heard Christian say, we put him on the Inters to see what would happen. Didn't work out, but it was still a good thing to do because you weren't going to lose points if it didn't work out. And there was valuable information that he could provide the team to deal with Verstappen's situation ahead of him on the road.
Correct.
By seeing whether it was appropriate to go to the Inters at that time.
Hey,
Chris, you're the sacrificial lamb if you are that far down,
Hey, Chris.
Completely. Yep.
Chris,
yes.
Christian Horner is the only one who stays on message 100% of the time. You can always get somebody else to either laugh or go off script or whatever, but Horner...
Oh, he's a true piranha.
He never goes off script. And when he kept saying the form moved around, he said it twice. I was waiting for you to say yes, but Max didn't move around. He stayed true during under braking, but he never does. He always stays on script.
Yeah, he really does. We talked about it, didn't we, last week, about the way he does that. But I think what's good is that generally, we've been talking to Christian a lot recently because of success Red Bull have had. And as you rightly pointed out, though, that is success that was, it's been 2 years, but it's already over in terms of dominance. And he doesn't shy away then. He doesn't think, you know what, today's not gone well, so I won't talk. I don't want to be rude about it, but there are times where certainly Toto Wolff over the last couple of years has decided, no, I'm going to hide away and not really talk about it too much because we're not in a good place. He kind of picks the times that he wants to speak. And sometimes it's because he does want to rattle some cages and say some pretty strong stuff. But others, it's because he's like, you know what, it's a tough day. I don't want to front up. And I'm not saying it's easy either way, but that is one thing I will give Christian Horner credit for, that we've always been able to get access to him and find out.
Yep, and he also gave plenty of credit to Lewis Hamilton. Didn't hesitate to do that. And it's not a criticism, honestly. I just want to see him. I want to see the funnier side because I know I know he can be, but that's all I wanted out of Christian Horner. But
and Christian didn't take a swing at you when you said you were making life difficult for your wife.
No, he did not. That was unintentional. I insist. But
ouch! Yeah, God, that was Careful, Grand.
Hey, Chris.
Well, you
got
pretend that I was being hilarious, couldn't you? But I actually wasn't.
Hey, you caught up with Oscar Piastri, didn't you? You want to set it up?
I did indeed. Yeah, I'd love to actually, because he was someone I really, really wanted to talk to. We obviously grabbed him briefly before that race, but watching it play out, sorry to everyone who follows me on Twitter when I tweet far too much, but you could see the problem coming from McLaren. And then I said it at the time when McLaren only pit Lando Norris and left Piastri to do a whole lap in those conditions, and Mercedes double stacked. I said it feels like Mercedes have called that one right of the two. And one lap later, it was very clear they had. So, I really felt for Oscar, and I wanted him to get to say his share. But I will admit again, a bit like Christian Horner, someone who will not deviate from the message. I'm sad to say, in a sense, that he didn't throw his team under the bus. I've got Oscar Piastri here with me. And Oscar, before the race, you said bring it on for a bit of rain. And it looked like you handled everything perfectly from your end. But did the team let you down a bit today?
It's something we need to review. I think for me, it's a very difficult decision for everyone to make. You've got both cars, 1-2, separated by half a second, and you need to decide who to pit, how many to pit, and when. So it's very, very tough, but it's a decision we need to get right. Some things to clearly review. I think from both sides, it got a lot wetter on that one lap than I thought, but clearly didn't get that one right.
What's the dialogue like between you and the team at that time? Because we hear delayed radio messages, and one where you said it was still Inter later on in the race as well, and then it quickly became dry. But how much is going back and forth between you and the team, or how much is the team just making the call?
There's a lot of back and forth. I think when it's getting wet like that, ultimately it is a lot in the driver's hands, because we're the ones that can tell whether we can keep it on the track or not. But at the same time, there was people out there on intermediates, and I don't know how much faster they are. Only the team know that. So it goes both ways. But clearly a little bit painful on both sides of the garage today, I think.
Yeah, the pace you showed, certainly going the medium tyre as well at the end. You were the quickest guy in the final stint. I think my calculations were you lost 18 seconds on those 2 laps before pitting for Inters, and you finished, I think, 12 seconds off the race victory here. Does it feel like a win got away, or can you take the positives that the pace was good enough to win today?
I think both are true. I think we can definitely take the positives of that. We had a very, very quick car today. Let's go this way. We had a very quick car, but I think we also could have won the race. The maths you just did speaks for itself. So, unfortunately, it just feels like we let that one slip a little bit. But we've got probably the hardest part nailed, which is making a quick car. We just need to give ourselves a better opportunity to use it.
Well, just finally, I want to finish on a positive. In Barcelona, you were scratching your head a bit, saying, I was a bit off it this weekend. I don't know why. I don't know where that lack of pace was. This is a similar track, and you certainly were not off it today. You certainly looked like you were fighting Lando Norris in terms of pace all the way through, if you can still hear me as we dance our way through some tyres. Did you find answers to what went wrong in Barcelona and kind of prove them out here?
I think we had pretty clear answers even before Austria on what went wrong in Barcelona. So I think Austria was a nice one to bounce back. I think here, again, we had a really good weekend in terms of pace and stuff. Just, I'd say different issues this weekend. Of course, a positive that we managed to discover what was wrong. But, we need to get everything right, because when we're fighting at the front like this, little mistakes have big consequences.
Well done today, unlucky.
Great interview again. Yeah. Really interesting.
Yeah. And Piastri obviously thinks about the questions. He doesn't just spit out that Kimi Räikkönen-esque, well, we'll have to see. Let's see what happens. Or, he was thinking about what he was being asked.
Yeah. And I think that bodes well for people like you and me, Bob, and to be honest, our whole audience. It is refreshing when you see a Lando or a George Russell or now a Piastri telling it like it is. If we talk about Christian playing the game, well, Piastri was playing the game. Not happy on both sides of the garage today, but giving his insight. And I thought what he said about Barcelona, fascinating.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's get a quick break.
And
And when we come back, we'll give you more from the British Grand Prix after this. 30 minutes. Hey, Jonathan, do you want to introduce our next guest, our 80-pound friend in the studio?
Is he coming on?
No, we've got Jonathan's 80-pound lab wandering around the studio this morning.
Yeah, and he predicted the top 3, actually.
How did we do on our predictions, by the way?
I think if anybody, no, I was miles off. I said a Mercedes 1-2.
Yeah, but did anybody?
I was with you.
Bob was the same.
Yeah, I think Chris was closest.
Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah. I picked Hulkenberg on the podium.
Those are two great interviews by Chris.
Norris winning.
Has he gone off again to go?
Yeah, I think he's jumped off. Yeah, I think he's having to go back to the Wi-Fi.
The Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi or the Wi-Fi?
Both. In case you're new, Chris's wife works for Sky Sports.
And is therefore a live producer standing right next to him.
Right, and she's coordinating the interviews for Sky Television. So he literally has to have his sharp elbows out against his wife to get an interview.
And Sky Television have an audience of probably 2 or 3 million, and then you add the 2 or 3 million that are watching here in the States, and we're not quite there.
We're
yet.
like 2.1 million instead of 2. Whatever. Yeah. Let's see. Any comments on YouTube? Let's see. David Lawrence. If this keeps going, I have a feeling that a new contract is going to be null and void. David Hobbs' voice. Talking about Checo. Yeah. Andy P. talking about Horner. Something we need to review. He's not going to throw the team under the bus, and that's about as close as they get. Yeah, good point, Andy. Good point.
Still want to know what's going on.
Okay.
Just I still want to know about Sexgate.
I know, whatever happened to that.
It's
Here we go.
Here
we go.
Hi, this is Mario Andretti, and this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Thank you, Mr. Andretti, for bringing us back. And Chris Medland, who is out at Silverstone still. Chris, you caught up with Zach. Hey, Chris, are you there? All right, well, Chris, he's not turned down. Is he?
Might still be talking to him.
Yeah, he may still be. Anyway, well, let's just play this because Chris Medland. Oh, okay. Casey doesn't have it quite ready, so we'll hear that.
Indeed, I've literally just finished that.
Oh, you drop it. Yeah, go ahead. Say it. Try now, Chris.
Yeah, I should be back. I'm doing that whole trick of running to the other end of the paddock where the signal's good.
You're getting better and better,
I
slowly.
went down to the dodgy end. That's just like me at life.
I was going to say,
I went down to the far end of the paddock to try and find Zach Brown. Because as we were playing out that Oscar Piastri interview, I was thinking, okay, Oscar's careful with his words, but what does the boss think? And again, it's a similar theme because it's tough to judge McLaren, but we've talked about it more and more, haven't we, about missed opportunities now. And at which point do you stop going, great work getting yourselves on pace that lets you fight at the front, and go, you've got to deliver. So that was pretty much how I put it to Zach. Zach, third and fourth for McLaren today. Good points. Still the highest scoring team, I think, of the day individually. But was that one that got away from you?
I think so. Disappointing, obviously. I think that was a race that either of our drivers could have won. We had a very fast car. Drivers did a great job. Conditions were very tricky. Always a little harder making the decision when you're the lead car because everyone kind of keys off of what you're going to do. But, yeah, in hindsight, we should have double-stacked Oscar. But, you weren't going to really know how the track was until they completed the lap because, double stacking is going to definitely cost you time. Turns out double stacking would have been a better call. And then I think at the end there, we had a fresh set of mediums. Probably should have thrown those on. Again, we were keying off of Lewis at that point. Max was awesome in his hard tires, showed the champion that he is, and a great strategy they had. And yeah, I think we left a little bit on the table there, but we'll debrief, we'll learn, we'll go again.
Hey, you say there about people keying off you and then you keying off them. Is there a little bit here now where McLaren needs to have its own way of just being forceful with its own decisions? Do you still feel like you're kind of finding your place at that top table in terms of being having conviction in those calls?
Yeah, I mean, we need to debrief kind of why we made the decisions that we did. Mercedes and Red Bull have been doing a lot of winning the last decade, and we're still creeping up on it. So, yeah, well, there's definitely some room for improvement, but we'll do that as a team, so not too worried about it.
Yeah, there's been a few occasions in the past few races, but the good thing is you've been there fighting for these victories. How about today with Oscar as well? Because his pace looked like it was good enough to win that race, even just raw pace, the way his strategy played out after that delayed stop.
I think Oscar could have definitely won that race. So, disappointed for both the guys because I think either one of them could have won.
Now, Red Bull, still one car scoring points. Mercedes lost the car in this race today. As I said, you scored, I think, 7 points more than Red Bull. I can't do the maths quickly enough. They're probably level, actually, with Mercedes in that sense. 2 more than Mercedes.
Yeah, I did the math.
Thank you. Maths is my strong point. I've seen you on that. Was it Wheel of Fortune where you said
Wheel
math?
Wheel of Fortune. I know my math.
Yeah, there we go. But can you get to Red Bull in this Constructors' Championship, and what do you need to tidy up to get there?
We need to keep doing what we're doing, not make any mistakes, continue to have both cars in the points as we constantly have, and we're chipping away at it. I think we did some decent points on them today. So, just one race at a time.
Yeah, but have you seen anything that tells you can't win every race between now and the end of the season? Have you got a car that can, I say win, not that you're going to go and dominate them, but you've got the car that can give you that chance?
I think we can be at the front every single race, but I think it's clear Mercedes is back. Red Bull's not gone anywhere. Ferrari's fallen off a little bit here the last couple races, but we see how quickly things can turn, and they're thereabouts. So I think it's going to be an exciting second half of the year for the fans.
Yeah, tough for you guys, but good time to be an F1 fan, isn't it?
Great time to be an F1 fan.
Zach, thanks for your time.
Cheers.
Another telling interview, no question. Also, I couldn't agree more with the way that Chris was pushing him towards. Shouldn't you be calling the shots? Keying off another team is dangerous. It's like setting out your strategy for a soccer match and saying, well, we're going to hold them in the defense this weekend, to use the parlance of the Euros, and the Copa Cup America. But no, I think McLaren need to sit into their own skin and go, we're going to make the decisions that work for us and
in the NFL
and stop keying off anybody.
They call that, we're going to play our game.
Our game, yeah.
We're not going to play
their game.
To their game. We're going to play to our strengths, our game, and that's exactly.
And the minute you do that
question.
means that everybody is looking at you or doesn't know what you're going to do, and that puts them on more pressure into the decisions they're making.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I think pretty clearly McLaren thought they were racing Lewis and only Lewis before Verstappen did some pretty miraculous things, as you heard Jack say, on those hard tires, which coming in were supposed to be a 1.5 seconds per lap slower than the softs. But overarching opinion is that McLaren obviously goes into every race thinking they can win it now, which is, a championship attitude. We're going to go out there. There's a reason we should win every race. We've got the car to do it. We got the drivers to do it. And, if we don't, even when you finish, second and fourth, you're disappointed.
Yeah.
Well, we've got the stratosphere or the into the weaposphere going. KM, Ferrari better throw everything at Adrian. That car has been lacking in development for years, and they seem not to know why. Couldn't agree more. I mentioned that he could be going to Aston Martin. Well, Ferrari, you better throw your last dice because
I wouldn't bet for him going to Ferrari. What were you going to say, Chris? Because I know I've heard rumors of that for years.
Yeah, the one that seems to still be rumbling along the loudest right now is Aston Martin, though. I do think they're still kind of negotiating, playing that game, kind of trying to get offers. But it sounded like the Andy Cowell move to become the group CEO at Aston Martin could be tied in with trying to get Adrian. Because
interesting one.
A source at Red Bull suggested that Adrian wouldn't work under Martin Whitmarsh, who was previously the group CEO and will be leaving. So, and then someone at Aston Martin this weekend, actually, when I went to the factory on Thursday, said they were sad to see Whitmarsh go. So it didn't seem to be that they felt that there'd been a key reason for that, based on his performance, shall we say. So, yeah, that's one to keep an eye on. That could have been a move to try and secure him. But it's interesting because that means, Aston fighting hard. But that suggests that there's no certainty to get him. And then they must have others that are fighting just as hard. But more and more teams seem to have kind of dropped out of that race. Like they feel like they don't actually have to commit to him because he's not a full-time kind of technical leader anymore. He kind of just influences stuff. And look at the two teams, or three teams almost, now at the front. Kind of going to go, well, if we bring him in, it might disrupt what we've got going. That's a good thing. So in that sense, I think you're right. Ferrari or Aston Martin are the two that look like right now they need him the most, unless Williams can attract him for a romantic return. But that's a big, big project for him to take on.
Is it me, or is it me, my sense of humour, that I've got this idea of Adrian standing in his garden going, okay, Aston, you could do the roses over there, and then Ferrari, if you could just mow the lawn, and we'll have tea later, and we'll all talk about it.
Sure, it's not far off of that.
Yeah. Well, Chris just summed it up pretty well. I mean, we talked a few races ago about the fact that Zach Brown's McLaren board of directors came to him and said, should we push to get Adrian Newey? And after thinking about it, Zach said, no, we don't need or want Adrian Newey, taking nothing away from all that he's accomplished. He is such a, 800-pound gorilla in the room that it might upset the chemistry on our technical side, and if we do, get all the way to the top, it's going to be because we had Adrian, which, denigrates what a whole lot of really clever, talented people have been doing to get McLaren to where they are. So
yeah,
Ferrari may be thinking that same way. We got a good technical department, and Adrian's terrific, but we just don't need him. It would do more bad than good at this point. Whether that's true at Aston Martin, and I read from Mark Hughes that Martin Whitmarsh, who is not everybody's favorite boss, helped recruit Andy Cowell, who supervised the building of the Mercedes hybrid engine that dominated everything. And the point of Hughes' article was that Cowell would be a great addition there at Aston Martin. Now, whether that means that Adrian Newey would also be a great addition or not, hard to say. But yeah, there's a lot of reasons, pro and con.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think that you're right. McLaren's blossoming into being a very good team happened. Timing was wrong for Adrian Newey for that. I think I agree with that decision, to be honest.
And ticks two boxes at Aston Martin. Number one, we know that Lawrence Stroll will write any check to make his team the best team.
He'll sell his own son.
And then number two is that it does represent a challenge. And I think I've heard Adrian Newey being quoted saying, that he loves a challenge. And I know Aston Martin's not at the bottom, but
Ferrari is almost the more enticing challenge.
You could make that argument. Chris, you said Aston Martin's probably the strongest rumor, but what other teams? I mean, are we right in saying Ferrari?
Well, I think Ferrari are a front runner, but like I say, I think there's a little romanticism that says Williams as well.
I do too.
Partly because James Vowles is very serious about building that team up and getting it back towards the front. And it's going to take time, but it's heading in the right direction. And with Pat Fry there, if Pat's happy as the chief technical officer to have Adrian come in as well, what a feather in the cap it would be for them. They're looking in a similar way with Carlos Sainz because it was a race winner they were trying to add. And it's the sort of hire that really convinces other people to join you too, if you can pull in a big name like that. So that's why I think they're pushing hard for him. And I think there will be a bit of Adrian Newey that thinks, wouldn't it be great to go back there and return that team to huge success? So, the thing is, he's going to have lots of options, but that's one, I believe, that will also be on the cards that he would consider.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you think that Adrian Newey wants to pick his next destination because he wants to make a splash, he wants to take a downtrodden team and make it a front runner, that's exactly the reason I think that Zach Brown did not want Adrian Newey, because he doesn't want somebody coming in trying to make a splash and flex his muscles and all that kind of thing, and upsetting the chemistry of the department that is succeeding slowly but surely at McLaren. So, the only guy who really knows why he's going to do and what he's going to do is Adrian Newey. It's going to be interesting to see how that all works out.
I would add that the Ferrari polemique will be that much harder in Italy than it will be at Williams, especially under James Vowles.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I think he'll have I could see that if I look at Vowles and listen to him talk and then listen to Adrian Newey talk, you can imagine those two agreeing over a beer. Whereas Ferrari is always a political animal.
And
Yeah, let's remember John Barnard, who was the genius
Yep.
designer before Adrian Newey, would not move to Italy to work for Ferrari. He
Yep.
set up the GTO design office in England. And that was ultimately the undoing of his relationship with Ferrari because he wanted to live in England and yada, yada, yada.
Hey, Chris, didn't I see Adrian Newey recently saying that he's not going to make a decision immediately, that maybe for sure not till after the summer break? Is that right? Is that what you've heard?
No, I saw that he said he needed to make one by the end of the year. That was when he was really looking to.
Okay.
He said he'd have to make one if he was going to move elsewhere, or he thought he'd want to know what he was doing next. But yeah, that's still up in the air, I think, in terms of actual timing. And it does seem, as part of him, it doesn't seem to be in a rush, and then there's part of him that's probably trying to play the game a little bit. It does sound much more like it's from his manager side of things, which is Eddie Jordan, who's actually his agent and his manager, who's kind of pulling all the strings right now. So it's trying to see what he suggests on that front. I'm afraid I'm going to break off slightly because I'm trying to get myself through into the pit lane for the Mercedes celebration again, because that's where Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton are going to be, and we'll see if we can get a word with anyone. But
yeah, go.
It seems impossible to get there right now, so I need to ask some questions.
All right, well, you go, and I'll do my conspiracy plus comment for KM. Yeah, Lewis is incredible, but also has shown that he needs a car underneath him to keep him engaged and on it. Mercedes were always great at just developing throughout the season, so that bodes well for a Ferrari Adrian Newey thing. And here's my conspiracy. Adrian Newey's a huge MotoGP fan. And guess who has just put potentially a bid to buy a MotoGP team? Lewis Hamilton and the Grassini team.
You are definitely
on it.
Well, you're reaching out. You're embracing the conspiracy theory all the way.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That is a great story, though. Lewis Hamilton potentially buying a MotoGP.
It makes sense. I mean, he's involved in the Broncos. I mean, he's doing what a lot of top athletes are doing now, which is investing.
Well, why wouldn't this? Why do you think this would be a great time for anybody to invest in MotoGP?
Because they're owned by the same bosses.
They're about to be. They're not official.
Liberty.
In other words, Liberty's about to sprinkle their magic sauce they sprinkled on Formula One.
Yeah.
So if they do the same thing for MotoGP, your investment will triple.
Yep.
So, all right, we got to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after these messages. Casey, that's some 80s new wave you got going on there.
That's his hit
stock
list.
music.
When he comes into the gate, Dan, he's playing that most days.
Man, yeah, if I was distracted, I've got my son coming over after trips to Le Mans, Watkins Glen, and then 24 Hours of Spa, my mechanic son. We're going to work on his Porsche. My wife is ordering tacos, taking my order from Torchy's, and my daughter's going to be home too. So I'm going to have a full house of family. I think it'll be calmer than yesterday.
Living the dream.
Calmer than yesterday. It was kind of crazy, but yeah. So I'm having a fantastic
They'll
afternoon.
still say, where have you been all day? We've had disaster after disaster.
And my son and I will be working on his car with the IndyCar race in the background. All right, let's see what's on YouTube.
Popic says, Andy P says he thought that Newey wanted to announce something in September, is what he read.
Okay. I could have swore I read something too, Andy, that was before. I knew he said it before the end of the year earlier, but I thought recently he said something.
Well, he's got to have one eye on the calendar, because if he's going to have, there's nothing he can do about the 2005 car for whichever team he joins. But that 2006 car with a whole new set of rules, that might be enticing. But he can't wait long, because, a year to get a new car up and running is a very compressed schedule. So he's got to make a decision sooner than later.
I love this one. T&W, our good friend from Udon in Thailand. Williams use Excel spreadsheets to run the biz. Newey and paper and pencil guy. Excellent man.
That is really good.
Great line.
Really good, TW. I love that. Yeah, because what he's talking about is James Vowles said he showed up. He came from Mercedes where they had the best of everything, and he walks into the Williams office and where's the strategy software? And they go, we use Excel. We use pivot tables, and it's like, whoops.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
He didn't know that.
All right, coming back.
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
We're still basking in the glow of Lewis, Carl, Davidson, Hamilton winning the British Grand Prix, the 9th victory at home.
By the way, again, not a conspiracy this time, but I do think watching Anthony and watching that 9th win today, and then Apex filming, in 10 years from now, there's going to be a fantastic story to write on Lewis Hamilton's career.
Oh, 10 more years he's going to race? Wow.
It'll take them 10 years to make the movie.
I thought you were predicting he was going to race 10 more years and give Alonso his run.
And he'll be executive producer.
Alonso will be 60 and he'll be 50.
Yeah, but he'll be still out in the grid.
Hey, Chris, I hear your mic lighting up. What's happening?
Yeah, I couldn't force my way into the pit lane. Apparently, it's closed to everyone but the Mercedes team doing their photo by order of Formula One. So I'm not too sure why. But I'm now outside Alpine, where Jeremy Clarkson is enjoying a beer in the sunshine. I'm telling you, summer suddenly arrived. So I'm trying to position myself between the Mercedes garages and the Mercedes motorhome, which is a very small distance, to try and see if any major team members come back after this photo.
What other stars? You said Jeremy Clarkson. What other stars have you seen today?
He's interviewed him.
From my point of view, obviously, I interviewed Stuart Broad. I saw Pat Cummins, who's also the Australia cricket captain. Michael Douglas was here again, although I didn't spot him myself. I was told Patrick Mahomes was on the grid. Although, again, that was secondhand info by ESPN trying to find him and not finding him. But they said he was here. So
I saw Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
Brad Pitt was very much here. He's been here all week, doing a lot of filming, doing a lot of work. So that's been quite entertaining, actually, to watch the Apex GP guys go about their business. They had 2 cars on the back of the grid.
I think I saw your wife interviewing
the she has met him a few times, actually.
Well, then you're in good stead.
I'm not insecure at all.
Yeah, where's his beard?
Not a star as such. Yeah, not a star as such. But I actually did just see Daniel Ricciardo with Liam Lawson walking down the paddock having a really deep conversation. Which it was almost the one I wanted to interrupt. Sorry, we just had a crash between a tyre lorry and a guest. Fortunately, it's an empty tyre lorry. So, it's just so busy here. It nearly wiped someone out. But I think the guy's okay. So that was right in front of me. It completely threw me. But the conversation was one I kind of wanted to interrupt because I was interested to see what they're chatting about. But sadly, it looked too in-depth to be appreciated if I was do that.
I can tell you what the conversation was about. Mate, you have to do the PR and you have to smile all the time. You can't touch your hair like you do, Lawson.
Daniel Ricciardo could give Lawson some PR lessons.
Let's be honest, though. We were talking earlier, weren't we, about Checo and what's going on there with maybe the next 2 races being crucial to his future. I feel like that Ricciardo's not been doing enough of a job to force his way in there. But if you're Red Bull, do you gamble? Because you want Lawson in that RB seat as well, and go, all right, Daniel, you've got to the end of the season. Like, seat's yours. Go and prove that you deserve to keep it. Otherwise, that's you done with us.
That makes more sense.
It kind of does, doesn't it? To me, it makes more sense. So I don't know if that's what could end up happening. And at the same time, you don't want to see Checo failing. You want to see Checo delivering, but it's going on too long now.
But to say, come on, in Formula One terms, he's had his time.
Well, and the thing is, you could argue the same with Ricciardo, couldn't you? Yeah. But the other thing is, Red Bull need a card to play, and they don't have one right now.
Yes.
So that's the bit that's lacking. But
and this championship is going to go down to the constructors' end, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. At the current form, I think actually McLaren. Okay, today they stepped up. They probably should have scored higher today, but they might get there. They might get to Red Bull. We've only just hit halfway, folks. This was the 12th race out of 24, so we've got a whole another half season to go. And that's why I was even watching. If Norris had won the race, and at one point it looked like Verstappen would have been fifth or even 6th, then you sort of go, okay, that's a chunk of points that he takes out of him, 10, 15 points, something like that. You do that a couple of times, and there is a title race. So it hats off again to Verstappen in the sense for pulling out a result that extended his lead when really Horner said there was a point he was a second lap quicker. That was a very small period on those hard tyres. On the whole, I think it looked like he had the 3rd quickest car for most of today.
Yeah. Hey, and let's not forget, Chris, I read that Liam Lawson's going to be testing in the Red Bull car next week at Silverstone.
Mm-hmm. He is. On Thursday, he'll be here. So Tuesday and Wednesday is a Pirelli tyre test, which Haas will be taking part in. I believe they're not the only team staying here actually to do that, but I'll admit I can only remember Haas and its lineup of Pietro Fittipaldi and Ollie Behrman for that. But then on Thursday, it's a filming day with the Red Bull car, the current Red Bull car that Liam Lawson will drive. And he's also either just driven or about to drive at Imola as well in the RB car from 2 years ago. So that's just some kind of sharpening.
The rules allow him
that was already planned.
So the rules do allow him to drive a regular spec car
for a filming
he can drive
day.
A car.
For a filming day.
Each team gets 2 filming days per season. Right. They're 200 kilometers in length, maximum length. So it's not even a full race distance over a whole day. And Red Bull have only used one of theirs, so this is their second. They may have some upgrades on the car. I believe that's actually something you can do for a filming day, as in something you've run before can run on that car. So
I think you're right there. Ferrari have done that.
Yeah, if you tested something potentially on Friday as well, you can put that on the car. It's current spec. You can certainly do that with tyre testing with the current cars. As long as you've run the component before, you can use it then. But with the old cars, you can't. The old cars have to be in the spec that they ran 2 years ago. And those ones you can run unlimited. That's up to you and the money you have in the budget cap.
All right, we get just about 3 minutes left in the show. Jonathan, I have an idea for next week because I was just thinking, we don't have a race next weekend. I know that's counterintuitive. I should be saying, oh, thank goodness we don't have a race. We've been a triple header, but I'm in a groove, baby.
After Austria and that,
I'm ready to go, but we don't have a race. But next weekend, we got our Sunday night show, right?
Yes.
Live in Austin, YouTube and all that. Why don't we get Logan Sargent on to announce his new IndyCar contract? How about that?
Wow. Okay.
I'm going to go full conspiracy.
I love
Bob
it.
started the conspiracy, so I'm just going to keep rolling with it.
Well, where? I mean, you've got to be more specific. Are
Okay.
you going to build one for
Go
him?
to YouTube. There's several people commenting on where they think he's going.
That place of
Yes.
absolute rectitude and brilliance and honesty.
It's not like any better than the network news, by the way.
That's
Thank
true.
you.
Oh, maybe our buddy Dave O'Neill running the Yugos Hologen
Yeah, he
team
can give us an insight onto
give
that.
us a little grapevine action.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I sorry to chip in, but I can also do the same. My colleagues at Racer are sniffing around that, saying that they're hearing of links. And I'm actually trying to meet up with Logan Sargent's manager this weekend. And so far it's failed, but he messaged me back when we were on air this morning, or pre-race, saying, yeah, I'm around if you want to chat. So hopefully I'll have a little bit of developments on that on the show. But I don't think, from what I've heard, you're miles off with those theories.
Well, Chris, I had a theory that I've been listening very carefully to his interviews every week post-qualifying, and he was so down. And all of a sudden, about 2 or 3 races ago, he started, just his whole demeanor was raised, like he had a contract or was in discussions, and he's sounded better and better every week. I think he's done a deal.
Potentially. I mean, let's also say he performed well today. He was one place outside the points. It's probably about 13, 14 seconds behind his teammate, but in a pretty chaotic race where, you tested in all sorts of conditions. I think he had a pretty solid run this weekend. Started 12th, finished 11th, just outside scoring. So certainly didn't do himself any harm with his performance today.
Well, if you've stayed with us this long, we thank you so much because I'm going to start a new tradition. Some other shows, some real professional shows, thank everybody that was on the show. So myself, Jon Massengale, Jonathan Green, Bob Varsha, Chris Medland, all of our guests.
Christian Horner,
Zach Brown.
Lauren Meckies,
that's right, in the pre-show.
Piastri.
Yeah.
Oscar Piastri.
Stuart Broad.
Stuart Broad, yeah.
I still don't know who
Chris's
that is.
wife for gracefully getting out of the way. Christian Horner.
Gene Haas, that's right.
Mario Isola.
Hey.
And by the way, I hope our fans are listening.
Yeah.
Hell of a job again, Chris.
Yeah, brilliant, Chris.
Thank you very much. Home race, had to step it up.
And if you want more of Chris, he heads up our show on Wednesdays, Wheel to Wheel, on the big satellite network on their ESPN channel. And and don't forget, next Sunday night, I just mentioned it, you can find us on local radio in Austin and on YouTube and stuff, but go to our website, speedcitybroadcast.com. Thanks, everybody. Jonathan, you got one last thought?
Labor Day weekend. It's WEC. It's coming. It's coming to you at COTA. Be
Get
there.
your tickets. Come join us. We'll talk to you next week.